Now that we have some of the property details set up for our affordable home site, let's look at adding the affordable home to the site. We're going to go ahead and go to the Insert tab, and we're going to choose Link Revit. Here I can be able to find my file name, and I'm just going to go ahead and select Open. Make sure you don't grab any of the backup files, but I'm going to go ahead and choose my file. Once I do, it may look as though you may see a little symbol here pop up. It may look that nothing really happened, but let's go to the 3D view. If I go ahead and go to the Home button and choose our 3D view, you're going to notice that what happened here is that our house is here on level 1 or at 0, our Toposolid. If I move to an elevation view, you can see level 1 is set at 767 feet. So that's the elevation for our site plan for our grade. So actually what I'm going to do here is 767, you can see doesn't quite line up with the top of the ground. So I'm actually going to go ahead and go to the Architecture tab. Let's grab a level in the Datum panel. And I'm going to go ahead and draw in one below purposely. Let's rename this to be the grade. We do want to rename the corresponding views, and I'm going to go ahead and double click, and we're going to make this 769 feet, which here on the left side, it doesn't really look like it lines up, but you can see it's definitely going to be right about where the top of where our house is going to be. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and go to the Modify panel. I want to choose the Align tool, and I'm going to go ahead and pick that new level that I just made, and I'm going to go down to the house. I'm going to pan down here. And I want to choose that top of foundation wall level. You're going to see the house is going to kind of disappear here for a second. If I zoom out, I can see it's already been moved up here to the top. And so that's going to be what we want is, again, that's, the top of the foundation wall should be somewhere around that grade level. If I go ahead and move to the Habitat for Humanity site floor plan, you can see here is the house, and I can click. And I can actually kind of drag this around when I have this selected. There's my little move tool. And if I want to place it in the middle, I can. Or if I want to place it somewhere differently, as long as I stay within this building line, I'm going to be good. So I'm going to go ahead and place it like this. If I wish to rotate it, I'm going to choose the rotate command. I'm going to go ahead and pick the center. I'm going to go ahead and start, and maybe I want to click to start my angle turn, and then maybe I want to turn this 90 degrees. So here we can see the top of the house. If I go to the 3D view, I can see here's kind of what I have going on. So you can choose which orientation that you wish the house to be in. I might want to go ahead and rotate mine just one more time, but it just depends on what you're looking at in terms of where you want some of these items to be. So looks like at this point, that's kind of what's happening here. I'll go ahead and hit the home button to put me back in the home view. And I might go ahead and turn this house around another 180 degrees. All right, so as I look at my 3D view, this is looking a little bit more like what I want a little bit here. So, all right, so I can see where my electric meter is from previous videos where we did electrical plans, and I can always kind of note that kind of thing. All right, so the house is linked now to our site plan. So everything looks pretty good. What we're going to do now is we're going to make sure to do something called an excavation. Because if I take a look at my particular file, I'm going to go ahead and go back to the Habitat for Humanity site plan. And I want to select a section. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a section right through the center. And when I right click, I'm going to go ahead and say Go to View. One of the things we're going to notice once I open the crop region here a little bit more is that if I change this to realistic, you're going to see that our solid runs right into our foundation. So the Toposolid's kind of this, the ground kind of just runs right through that. So what we're going to do is to create an accurate kind of site section there is we're going to go ahead and put in a new level. I'm going to go to the Architecture tab, choose the level command, and I'm going to use the Pick Lines option. I do want to make sure to create a plan view, so I want to make sure that box is checked. And then I want to choose the top edge of the footing right here. So this new level 4, I want to go ahead and just rename it to top of footing. And I know we've done this in previous videos. I do want to rename the corresponding level. I know we've done this in previous videos and in previous parts of this project, but the site plan really needs this level in order to be able to figure this out. So what I might do here is I can go ahead and grab, again, on the section view, this looks okay. So let's go ahead and go to that top of footing floor plan. What I'm going to see in here is that you can see where the ground is interfering. This is down below the floor and in underneath the house. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a floor. And our flooring that we're going to look at is I'm actually going to go into, I'm going to use a generic 12-inch floor. I want to edit the type. I'm going to duplicate. We're going to create a floor for our crawl space. So I'll name this crawl space floor and say, okay. I'll edit the type. We'll go ahead and make this cast in place concrete. And then I'm going to go ahead and make this 4 inches for the thickness. Okay. Now, knowing that, I'm going to go ahead and draw in. So I'm going to use the pick lines tool, and I want to pick on the insides of where our foundation walls would be. And I'm probably going to have to go use the trim extend to corner and clean up some of these lines, because Revit's going to give us an error if we try to. And there's a couple places where they didn't make some connections, and there's some places that were overshot. So we're just cleaning this up on the corners. That way we get some nice closed loop lines. And it'll tell you if there's any that you missed once you hit the green check mark. So right now it doesn't really look like we did anything, but if we go back to that section view, I'm going to go back to section 1 here, and I'll zoom in. This footing, let me see if I can grab this little white dot here. There we go. I'm going to drag this off to the side. There we go. And you're going to see here is the floor. Okay. Now you're going to see it sits below the footing level there. So that's because we didn't account for the thickness. So I'm going to go ahead and add in 4 inches to this level. So now we're at 765 feet with 4 inches. And then when we do that, you're going to see this new floor is now going to sit on top of the foundation footing, which is exactly what we want to have happen. All right, I'm going to move to the 3D view because this is going to be best seen here. So, and I'm going to run something called, from the properties palette, something called a section box. I'm going to check that and hit apply. And the box is going to show up. And if I see there's a little blue arrows, if I drag this in until it cuts into the house, you're going to see this is where you can really see what happens here is we end up having, there's the ground kind of interfering and there's the flooring. So I'm going to select the Toposolid. So if I just select the ground itself, and up here you're going to see an option that says excavate. There's only 2 options if you happen to hit this little arrow. It's excavate or remove it. So I'm going to go ahead and excavate, and it's going to ask me to pick a spot, an element to do that. So I'm going to pick the floor. And once I do that, you're going to see that ground gets removed. Now you may see still a little bit of some spots where the ground tries to interfere with the inside of the foundation wall. But the main thing is that what we see is now we no longer have that ground interfering, and it's like we actually excavated this away in order to create what used to be called a building pad. And so now this is our new excavation. So in this case, if I cancel a couple times, I can go ahead and actually turn off the section box. So that'll bring everything back. And if I go to the section view, we'll see that we can see the ground kind of behind it, but we don't see, some of the other options here. So it should look, it's kind of hard to tell because it is kind of looking at the section behind. But really, when we go to that 3D view, the section box is what's showing us the true kind of cutaway of that excavation. So, all right, this is going to wrap up kind of how to place the house on the site, and then also how to excavate or create a building pad for your affordable home project. Next, we'll take a look at how to subdivide and kind of add in some new components into our site plans design.